Hello, in this video we're going to take this image here and use the background remover that is built into Canva, and then we'll do some cool stuff where the text kind of overlaps a little bit above, below. I love doing this in combination with the background remover. Here's some of the other examples that I did, kind of sort of that interaction with cut out image. That's the background remover and what we're going to learn. Okay, and then kind of mixing it with text so it kind of looks like it's above and below. I don't know. Adds interest, I think. Let's jump in and learn the background remover. All right, let's start by adding a new page. If you're on this thumbnail view like I am, you can just hit plus down here to add one. If you're on that scroll view, it's up here. You can add a blank page. Either way, I'm going to be in thumbnail view. Click the background. I'm going to pick a background color that's kind of dark-ish color. I'm going to add an image. Okay, we could go to the upload option, or we could do it the quick way and just go, all right, background removal, just add that one. Just drag it on, it uploads, you can see it kind of doing its thing there, and it's in. All right, now the background remover is a pro tool. Okay, if you're on the 30-day trial or the pro version, this will work. If you're not, it won't. There are free things online. There's a bunch of different websites that claim, well, that do get rid of a lot of the background. You can go do a search for those. I'm not going to give you one because they keep changing and sometimes they get quite popular and then they get lots of ads and spammy. So there are sites out there to do this background remover for free. Not as good as Canva, and Canva's not as good as Photoshop. For a one-click option, this is pretty spectacular. I'm amazed. Let's wait for the amazingness. It's called Magic Studio. Oh, look at that. Man, it's good. It doesn't get it perfect every time, but every time I use it, it's just a little bit better. Look at that detail in there. So good. It's really good at like taking crisp edges and some of the more fluffy ones like is here. Okay, and kind of doing this nice mix of kind of solid with fluffy edges. It's really good. If you do find there is something, that's not quite perfect, say you want to cut this part out, this kind of like, maybe it's distracting, or in this case it's missing a bit. What you can do is you can go to background remover, okay, or you can click on this and see that's the little settings option. You end up in this kind of new view. Okay, this is the background remover view. You've got two options. You can erase stuff. Okay, if the automatic feature didn't get it, I'm going to undo, or you can restore stuff. So that's how it works. Erase, restore, brush size, the teeny tiny the brush to get into like little small spaces. I'm going to use erase even. Okay, and you're going to use a nice big brush to get nice curved edges. I find it easier with a big brush to kind of do nice broad sweeps to try and trim parts up, trim part of his belt up. So less obvious that you've been chipping away with a small brush. Show original just kind of like shows you a faded version of the original. Not completely, just to give you an idea. Sometimes you need to see like, what the heck is that? You're like, oh, okay, missing that bit. So often you'd be working in quite small. For some reason the shortcut, oh yeah, shortcut works. Sometimes the shortcut wasn't working. Why was it working and now not? Anyway, my zoom in, which is Command plus or Control plus on a PC, wasn't working a second ago. Anyway, so I'm going to go restore, see what that is. Okay, say we need this because it's part of the thing we're selling. So we're just going to rub that in, and then we're going to go to erase and say, I don't want this because it's quite distracting or maybe not part of what we want to do. When I'm finished, I'm going to close it and it'll jump back in. Zoom out a little bit again, or use our shortcut, Command Option 0, Control Alt 0 on a PC. Awesome, love it. Scale it up a little bit. That is the background remover. Click it. See how good it is. See if you can touch it up with a brush. If you need to go into like a lot more detail, I imagine that tool is going to develop as Canva develops. You need to go out to something like Photoshop, but man, it does a pretty good job. What I'm going to do now is add the text so it looks like it's kind of above and below. You can leave now. It's just adding text and kind of playing with layers. Up to you if you want to check it out. I'm going to flip them over horizontally, give you face in that way, and I'm going to go some type. Now, when you are dealing with type, I'm using a quote. It's a Tolkien quote. I just Googled cool camping outdoorsy quotes. And when you're doing this kind of like over, some of it's above, some of it's below, they need to be in their own separate type boxes. I messed around. I like that Gagelon font, Gagelin. Okay, and I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to decide. There's a lot of messing around, and often if you're like, mine doesn't look as good, man, it is tricky to get it to look good. There's a lot of like, can I read that font? I can't, so I'm going to shrink that down. Like, I like just throw it on the page, so I'm going to copy and paste that. Not all those who wander. I want to go and edit the code as well to, to fit the design. Lost. I think there's a full stop in there as well. And let's put in, I'll find an appropriate font, and let's do the layer stuff. Actually, let me find a font without keeping you here. Not sure why. This needs to be on an angle. There you go. So I've got these. I'm going to play around with, so I want that behind. Maybe that in front. Good contrast against his hair. You don't really want to put stuff over his face. It's kind of like one of the design rules of like, why does this look weird? It could be that you have text over somebody's face. That's why I'm getting him facing this way. I've done this before. I've practiced this before I started the video. That's why I'm kind of just doing it. Okay, but I did spend some time kind of like going, all right, what should be there? Should that be there? Should that be there? I'm using the shortcut Command first square bracket on a Mac to move it backwards, or Control first square bracket to move it backwards. I'm looking for that kind of like interactive where you can still read it. I've lost the quote at the end, but that's okay. I played with the size. Maybe we want to kind of go for 3 font sizes. Is that cool? It's interesting. So this guy's flying. Okay, up to you. I don't know. What do you think? It's an interesting technique regardless. We cut people out, which is pretty easy. Then we did some kind of cool interactions. I'll show some of the ones that I was practicing with. That's the one I practiced with. Then I played around with this one with some trees. Ooh, some plants that I found. Okay, and then I found this guy, and then I found this guy, and then I found this guy, and then I spent way too long trying to figure out some sort of interaction. Can you see as well, it says not a wanderer lost. Like there are so many different layers going on and different sizes. I broke that into 2 text boxes so I get this kind of thing going. It's tricky, but fun. All right, that's it. I've somehow turned the background remover, which is 1 click, into a very long video, but it's kind of cool. I love, ooh, that's what I needed. The line spacing was too far apart. Did I do it? Maybe he needs to be bigger. Oh, for those of you who hung out this long, you drag the sides. If you hold down the sides, okay, and you hold the Option key on a Mac and Alt key on a PC, it does it from the center and kind of makes it bigger. I find it's kind of easier than trying to drag it this way and then go up and drag it that way. Can't even see the edge now. But if you hold down the Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC, it kind of drags it both ways, keeping it kind of centered. Oh, I feel like that's it. I think the trick here is like, there's a little bit of where you can't quite see it, where somebody's like the viewer has worked it out with even the missing bits. There's a bit of like success for the person who's read it. And they're like, ooh, I've done that. I've calculated what that says, even though he's hidden part of it. And I think that's the kind of like balance of trying to hide stuff with people being able to still quite read it without reading it. Anyway, that is it. See you in the next video.